Good morning. Denise Dryden here. I'm out on Bainbridge Island and I'm out on the porch, maybe underneath the roof because it's been sprinkling. I'm trying to stay warm and dry. Got the big cedar here behind me. This thing is one of the biggest cedars on the island, and I like to do my shows in front of him because he's just magnificent, huge. So, good morning. Today I want to talk about status quo and how to step off of the status quo. And I thought, as usual, we're going to start with really gaining an understanding of what status quo is and where it came from, right? So the status quo is the existing state. It's Latin. It means the existing state of things. So present customs, practices, power, relationships, politics, all of that. So whatever's happening right now that we're holding into place in a paradigm form is the status quo. Make sense? Yeah. So it's social, professional, financial. It's our standing in the world. And so when we go to our standing in the world, then the historian in me goes, let's back up. So we have the silent generation, the Depression, World War II, the elders of our culture now. And what they saw was a world that was broken apart, and what they did is they put it together into a form that they wanted. And then the baby boomers picked it up and continued it and built it even bigger. And then the next generation, the next gen, came along, and what they did was they .com'd it. They expanded it. They showed us how to do it remote, how to do it with technology, how to build this status quo. And so we have three generations that have been building and calcifying and solidifying this status quo. And what it is it's a very narrow bandwidth that's focused on get a job, a really high paying job, get a good house, get a high social standing. And I happen to move around a lot and live in mountain resort communities, and now I'm out on Bainbridge Island, and these are places that are affordable for higher incomes. And so I get to watch a lot of the status quo. That doesn't mean that everybody's doing this. This is just what I get to watch from this lens, and then what I see promoted in media and in all of the forms of supporting what this status quo is. So the status quo that we currently exist in is that it's all about education, and it's all about getting into college. And then when you get into college, it's about getting a good job. And when you get a good job, then you can afford things like the car and the house and the lifestyle that every magazine, every commercial, every television show tells you you can do this, right? So we have these chasers. We're running as fast as we can to get into this narrow bandwidth. And this doesn't mean that everyone's there. It means that the chasing is what I want to talk about. Or if you're there and you're miserable, let's talk about this. So it's part of our American culture. It's part of our North American culture, Western culture, global culture. It's this seeking of status. It's a kind of living that is highly desirable, that we have the opportunity now to look at and go, how much of that do I really want to do? So it's driven by our hopes and desires of what we knew growing up and what worked for us and what we started to create. So now we can take this creativity and put it in a different direction, right? So there's also one more piece before I start talking about how to break out of the status quo, is that this paradigm, this bandwidth that our global Western American culture really adores and supports is also supported by fear. Fear of not belonging, fear of rejection, fear of disapproval, fear of punishment, fear of failure. And so what we do is we work harder and harder, and we push forward to try to get up as close as we can to that kind of lifestyle. And what I see in the coaching work that I do with families is that the education push, the push to perform, is at the cost of creative learning, especially sensory beings, perceptive beings who are creative learners, who look at the school systems and go, not necessarily for me. So we've been proficient at creating status. We are pushing for higher GPAs. It's getting to the point now where colleges are turning down 4.0 because there are higher performers behind them. There's the pressure to go to college. We are now producing overeducated young adults who have no experience in making a living or no independent living skills. So we've emphasized the education to get to the social strata that we're looking for at the cost of our ability to support ourselves in the future. It's kind of an interesting challenge. It's an old idea, it's a calcified idea, and it doesn't work anymore for so many. And what we're seeing, and we've talked about this in other videos, is that we're sort of dislodging some of these calcified places in our culture where we've been stuck. So some of these issues are going to be voluntary and some of these are going to be involuntary. When we're looking at stepping out of the status quo, some of it is about things that are completely out of our control. So I want to go through the top reasons to explore stepping out of the status quo now. Number one, we talked about this pressure is building. This is building. There's something interesting going on, and I know that there's a change coming, but I'm not sure how to put my finger on it. So what I want to talk about are, what are you noticing? So what if you learn differently? What if you work differently? What if you have kids that can't do traditional education, right? And the system's not working. It's not adaptable. It's not flexible. It's not able to support either you in your work scenario, you in your education system, or your children in the current school. What if you're over leveraged? You have too much debt, and time and money and relationships are stressed. These are really big symptoms. What if you're really perceptive and you see what's out there and you're going, this whole little creative little village thing that I'm creating, I think there's more. I want more. I want to get out. And your body just keeps, like, you have dreams and you have these internal dialogues of, I want more. That's my motto. I want more. Or you're sick and you have reoccurring body pain, whether it's in your back or your neck or your shoulders or your stomach or your digestive systems or your bowels. You have autoimmune symptoms. You have food allergies. These are all symptoms of your body trying to talk to you and say, what you're doing isn't working. We need to do something different. You're exhausted. You're anxious. You're depressed. You self-medicate with wine or weed or shopping or sex or screens. You know, like, think about the things where you just can hardly wait to get home to check out because you need to go numb for a little while so that you can recuperate. And then there's this constant presence of anger, whether it's just under the surface or you're really just in your tone of voice and in your approach to life, you're an angry person. These are all the top reasons to go, uh-oh, tap, tap, tap. Something's going on. There's too much pressure to keep up, and I don't want to do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. So in order to step out of this narrow bandwidth of what our culture supports and sort of honors, right, exemplifies, those in here really like this because they've made it and they want to stay here. Those of us trying to get there, it's really exhausting. But in order to step away from this, you need courage. You need the deepest form of courage. So start practicing places where courage can show up. You need to trust yourself. You need to know that what you know, what you feel is real. You need to develop your own inner guidance. You know, whether you use yes, no's, or whether you have a process of journaling, whatever it is, you need to be able to access what is it that keeps me in line with me so that I'm not fooling myself, I'm not pretending, I'm not checked out. The other is that you have to agree to be a disruptor, a rebel, a pioneer, to open up a frontier that's different than this narrow bandwidth. And you have to be able to like kind of like doing that. For me, I'm the rebel. I like it. You've seen me. I move all over. In the last 4 years on this show, I've been in all sorts of different places. So Here are some things that I'm going to say. This is just my list of what it might look like to step out of the status quo. Look at your current education system. If your kids don't want to go to school, if you're dragging them, if it's a power struggle, if they're miserable, if they're sad, if it's not working, they don't understand, if they're being bullied, then take your kid out of the current education system and look at alternative schools. Look at homeschooling. Design a way for these new Aquarian kids to learn. They're creatives. They have a different kind of intelligence. They're not going to respond to the intelligence within this bandwidth. They're the ones who are here to sort of explore outside of that. So pull them out of school and do something different, even if it means you have to change your lifestyle in order to teach them and teach them. Let go of the big single house. Look at co-housing. Look at downsizing. Look at collaborating and look and moving into apartments with members of your family. Look at ways that other cultures have cohabitated together but have gotten away from the big single house concept, where you're using a lot of energy, maintaining a lot, and you have that house on the hill, the status, right? But it's killing you. Let it go. Get it out. Explore a different way of living. Explore small towns. Explore urban neighborhoods. Look at different regions. Move to where your heart wants to be, whether it's I need to be next to the ocean like I did here, or I've never lived in the mountains and I think the mountains are important, or I've never really understood how to do urban community where we take care of each other in an apartment complex. Find out what kind of housing you can do differently. Explore other trades and other skills and passions. Find hobbies. And then look at starting a small business in that area. You know, one of my favorite stories is that a friend of mine got a tap, tap, tap on the shoulder when she had this huge publishing firm and she was at the top of her game. And this voice was like, you're an astrologer at the core of your being. And she was like, oh, what? And how do you change from what you thought you needed to do to make money to what you're here to do, and then watch the money follow it, right? So, you know, look at working at home. Take classes, join skill groups, learn something, develop your innate skills. Develop what it is you need to do to be happy. Travel. Take road trips. Pay attention to what you notice when you're driving. Do you like the wide open spaces? Do you like being in the middle of the hustle bustle of a town? But get outside of your comfort zone and explore. Pick a destination, get on a plane, fly there, spend the time driving around or walking around going, could I live here? What does this feel like? This is how we explore what change looks like. Renegotiate. At any given time, if you're like plodding along down this road, you could be 10 years into this direction. You go, you know what? I don't think this is going anywhere. I don't like this road. I'm going to turn around, go out, and try something else. So renegotiate with yourself. Renegotiate with your partner. Renegotiate with your children. Renegotiating is a phenomenal skill. I thought I wanted this. Now I don't. So I'm going to do something different. So we're at a time of creativity, and we're at a time where learning is really important, and learning things like flexibility, adaptability, receptivity, responsiveness. These are all those values, all of these ways of embodying fluidity. And with fluidity comes freedom. So when we step out of the status quo, we stop trying to fit into this, and we create freedom outside that matches our heart, our family, our soul work, and we create something new. If you'd like some help on how to do that, that's what I do as a coach, especially in family work. Give me a call. You can find my number on DeniseDrydenCoaching.com, or you can send me an email. Let's have a cup of tea together and talk. Have a great Sunday, have a great fall, and get outside and explore. Take care.